All right, we are on. Count us in. I'm geeking today.
5, 4, 3.
Good morning, everyone. I am Don Zavis, National Sales Trainer, Sales Coach, Keynote Speaker. I want to welcome you, as always, to our Friday session. We're going to be doing something a little bit differently than we had in the past. Originally, we had my session and John's session as individual components. Since so much of what we do is interchange, we're going to actually share the stage, although each individual one will facilitate. So I just kind of wanted to share that with you. Thank you so much for being here. Grab your coffee, grab your pen, grab your paper. Some sales learning is going to be commencing. So, Mr. WAECHTER, how are you, sir?
I'm doing fine.
Good.
Actually, never better, never better. I've got
That's
my
excellent.
Indiana University shirt on today in honor of the Indianapolis 500
That's right.
On Sunday. So we'll get the champagne rolling Sunday morning early.
Absolutely. Nothing better than the loud sound of cars where you can actually feel them as they come rumbling by. Today's session will be, as we said, slightly different, but I want to do a mini session before the session. Actually, this was in response to a text message I got literally about 20 minutes ago. And I replied back that we'll do it here for that couple, 2-3 minutes in the beginning, and he can watch it on the Vimeo sometime in the future. The question specifically is, what do you do when you've emailed somebody, they haven't responded back, you email them again, they haven't responded back, you've called them, they haven't responded back. Now, one process is the blow-up call. And we've all gone through that. Hey, Bob, left a couple messages, didn't get anything back. Get the sense we're not moving forward together, and I'm totally fine with that. You know, if I don't hear back from you Monday by 3 o'clock, I'll go ahead and close your file. Thank you very much. Bye. That's the blow-up call. But the blow-up call only works when you legitimately want to walk away from the opportunity.
Right.
Because that's essentially what you're doing. You're saying, I'm not going to keep calling you because you're not calling me back. That is the physiological manifestation of the line. Never listen to what they say, only listen to what they do.
The new word is ghosting.
Ghosting, absolutely, yeah, absolutely, right? So never listen to what they say, only listen to what they do. Their actions speak louder than words. However, if it's a client that you do want to have a relationship with, and assuming it's not a one-man show, and a sole proprietor where the person you're reaching out is in fact the only employee. So if they have multiple employees, multiple locations, here's what I suggest. When you send out your email, and by the way, most people avoid the emails that ask for an action. You send them out a quote, you want to get a response. You send them out time to get together. They're reluctant to meet face to face. So normally they disappear. We kiddingly, you mentioned ghosting, we kiddingly say, they go in the witness protection program. And these are the very people that were always very responsive. They responded to your emails, responded to your texts, responded to your calls. They always did a good job. If you want to maintain the relationships, and I'm just going to talk about email. So when I send you an email, the Wharton School of Business says that is a written correspondence, by the way. And generally when it comes to written correspondence, 7 business days is what they say. Now that's in the process of being amended in the world of email. I personally think 2 business days is enough. If I send you an email on Tuesday, I don't care how busy you are, you can at least respond back by Friday. Now it might be, hey, listen, can't get to it this week, let's connect up on Monday, or kind of a sniglet version of whatever it is you're asking. Yeah, the color is blue, we could talk more about it next week. But the idea is to get a response is not that unreasonable within 2 days. Here's what I suggest the next step is. So you've waited the customary 2 days, that person hasn't responded. I encourage you to send the second email to them. But on the subject line, prior to whatever the subject line was before, I want you to write the word second request dash. Second request dash. By the way, lowercase. So you can use the 2ND request and then whatever your original subject line was. Now, first of all, what that does is it lets the receiver know you're keeping track. Know that you've reached out to them and they're blowing you off. They hope you die and never bother them again. But now you're telling them, by the way, I'm not going away. So you leave them that second request, a little dash, and then whatever the original subject line was. So again, you're letting them know that you're keeping track.
And you are a proficient user of the
Oh, I use the crap out of that. Because here's what I think, right? If I think it's important enough to respond to, I expect you to respond to. No, I don't think, it's not unreasonable that we do it, maybe you can't do it today, or maybe, you can't do it tomorrow. Again, if you don't control your time to be able to do that, when somebody tells me, I've been so busy, and they use that almost like as a justified excuse.
Right.
Here's what I say when they say they're so busy. Well, when would you like to talk about that problem? Because if you're doing that to me, you're likely doing that to lots of people. You should have such control over your time that, again, within 24 hours, and it might just be a response that says, hey, listen, can't get to it this week, let's talk next week, which is totally, completely acceptable. So your second email to them, basically, the content is almost the same. It says second request, dash, and then whatever the subject line was that you had before. And it may say something like, hey, Bob, did you get my voicemail message from Monday? Something real simple.
Yep.
Bob, did you see the email below? Just something, because again, I'm going to look for the good in people. I'm going to assume that the reason I haven't gotten a response is not because they're just a screw up. I'm going to assume that something happened, right? There may be something in their world that didn't allow them to do it. I might even go so far as to say, again, this is called going high. I might say, geez, Bob, I hadn't heard back from you. You're great at responding back. I hope that everything is okay, right? So now you're reaching out to them as maybe because you're so good at responding and you do such a good job to, move these things quickly. The fact that you have it now is a means for concern for me as to your well-being. Number 3, if you do the first one and you put the second on the thing. Number 3 is capitals. 3RD, request, is in capitals, dash, and whatever the original subject line. But the difference in the third one is you include someone else. Now, I would like it to be whatever the owner of the company is.
Yeah.
Right? That's
or
my...
the supervisor.
Somebody. I want somebody, and if you call Sally's secretary and you say, hey, Sally, I've been trying to get a hold of Bob. I haven't been able to get a hold of him. What's Bob's boss's name? Or, I'll send it to, this person. Or, you can usually find the president of the company. It's interesting. Their information seems to be everywhere. Phone numbers and emails. Because, again, most executives, certainly most entrepreneurs, we want to be visible. I want you to tell me things that are good, and equally it's things that are bad. So your third time it says, third request, now all in caps, dash, and whatever it is. Bob, I've reached out to you a couple of times with no success. I spoke with your receptionist, and they thought Bob might be able to help, and I included him on this email. Now, when your boss is CC'd on an email that shows a history over essentially 2 weeks, if you're waiting the customary time, and it says third request, do you think the boss is going to say something?
Highly possible.
Absolutely. And I've had people say, well, aren't you worried about, destroying the relationship with the first guy? I'm like, what the hell is he doing for me? He's avoiding my calls. How is he furthering my interest? Right? Maybe if the boss cracks the whip, then he'll get to whatever it is we originally agreed to do. So that's just when you're having an email, and that's only when you want to maintain the relationship with the company. But I believe you do no service whatsoever to not call out bad behavior. You actually go to the point where you're enabling it. I've had people apologize, right? I'll call somebody and I'll leave a message for them and I'll take them through this first, second, and third type of thing. And again, they'll call me and say, geez, I'm so sorry, right? I've been so busy. And I'm like, so what part of the world is that acceptable?
Exactly.
Right? I mean, sorry, officer, I was speeding because I was so busy. Right? I wasn't able to make my mortgage payment on time. You know why? Because I was so busy. If it's important enough, you'll find a way.
But what it does is, ooh, nice catch.
That's okay. Let me keep going.
What it really does is it tells the person that's ghosting you that if you don't go through these motions, if you don't go through these animations and make sure that the unprofessional behavior or the unprofessional side is surfacing and you don't call it out, what that does is it just tells the person that's ghosting everybody that it's okay. I can get out of the equation. I can get out of my little mess. I can get out of my situation by just ignoring you. And so when Don said it's enabling, who it's enabling is all future interactions and all future potential ghosting. And it's not professional. So when you have that situation occur, don't let it just happen. Go ahead and go through a certain regimen that was just outlined and make it happen.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. By the way, the last thing on this point is, and I mentioned earlier, You never listen to what people do. Excuse me. You never listen to what people say. You only listen to what they do. When you have the prospect that says, I'm interested, I'm interested, I'm interested, I'm interested, and you as a thank you so much. And you as a salesperson say, as a salesperson, you're thinking, well, that's it, I made a sale. And yet they don't respond back. You constantly got to chase them. They go into hiding, blah, 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 blah. But it's a salesperson, because again, we're ultimately optimistic. In the back of our mind was, well, they said they were interested 5 months ago, so the fact that they've not called me back any of these 10 times, they're still interested. I just got to keep pounding on the door. I don't find that. So that was a mini lesson up front. So, Mr. Wechter, what are we going to be regaled with today?
Well, like you, I got a recent phone call of a person who's re-entered the workforce in an entirely new profession. And she was telling me that she hasn't really networked personally in over 7 years. And even though, even in the previous situation, she wasn't a heavy networker. She was more of a a networker that just wasn't into it. It wasn't really important to her particular situation. She networked when she had to, and she self-admitted that she wasn't really good at it. And I said, well, all right, let's review that on the next session, and that happens to be today. So today we are going to go through the 10 things that everybody can do, that everybody needs to do if they want to become a better networker.
Love that.
And so networking in our world is more important than ever, because we just had 2 years of pandemic where networking in person, building those one-on-one relationships was really not allowed. It wasn't cool. I mean, everybody had their own little, if you were out in public, everybody had their own little opinion about that. If they saw you out in the world, so many people thought that to be a negative aspect, because you were verboten, you were not supposed to do that, and
you're risking us all.
Exactly. You're gonna kill us all off. And so anyway, so now it's more important than ever. And yes, we've been back networking for quite some time, but it doesn't really matter which networking instance we come across. You can see it. You can just look out and just say, you can see the people that are lost, the people that are off in the corner, the people that are grabbing cards just because. I had a guy told me, I'm out of here. I got my 10 cards. Boom, I'm gone. And I mean, so it was a burden to that particular person. Shouldn't even been there. What did he do with the 10 cards? They went in the circular file as soon as he left the building. Guaranteed. Yeah. But he did his job.
Yep, looked like work.
He did what he was supposed to do. So anyway, we're going to go through it. You ready?
I am ready.
Okay, the first one is be prepared. So be prepared is, it sounds like it's, it sounds like it's kind of common sense, but I can't tell you the number of people that have come in. Come on in, guys. I can't tell you the number of people that have come in and just not been prepared. So what you want to do is depending on the situation, you want to arrive early. As two of our guests arrived 10 minutes late. So, but this is a class. This is not a networking session. So we have we want to make sure we arrive early. And the reason that you arrive early is especially if there's something about the networking session that you really, really want to delve into, like you want to talk to the leader of the networking group or maybe to a special presenter. If you arrive early, you're going to be able to have a one-on-one with that person, a lot higher probability of that than at the end. Because at the end of the presentation, everybody wants, if it's a good presentation or a good networking, everybody wants to talk to the group leader. Everybody wants to talk to the presenter. So one of the things to do in a standard networking group, especially if it's business networking, arrive early. Dress the part as well. If it's networking If it's networking in like lawyers and accountants in a downtown environment, then you gotta get your armor on.
Yep.
That, you know, if you're in a chamber of commerce or something that is less formal, then then you just have to understand the audience, and it's no big deal. Just dress the part that you want to convey, because you're there. We'll get to it a little bit later, but you're there to send a message or to present a message or to present yourself. So you just got to do that. You got to bring plenty of business cards, and this happens all the time. People come up to a networking session where there's 30, 40, 50 people. There you go, Mitch. And you don't have any business cards on you. Happens every networking group. I run into somebody, even to this very day, that doesn't have a business card. Now, sometimes it's kind of legitimate because they're still prospecting their business. They don't know if they're jumping in or not yet. They want to test the waters and bounce some ideas off people. That I can find, that I can tolerate for one session, But normally, if not, then you're just not into the game. And so you also want to make sure that when you are preparing, you review your LinkedIn profile, because there's a really good chance, and also that's a business side, but also your Facebook. There's a really good chance that when you hand your business card to somebody, at some point in time in the next however often, they're going to go to your LinkedIn, and you want those two messages to be aligned. Yes. You don't want to say anything that your LinkedIn profile, because it's 5 years old, is not updated. So you want to make sure that you understand your LinkedIn profile, so that helps you with your 30-second elevator speech, if indeed you're having trouble. And if you're nervous, a lot of people are. A lot of people get nervous when they're in public because they're more introspective people. They're not extroverts, so they just kind of clam up. If you got to rehearse an elevator speech, you rehearse it. There's several things you can do to just offset the nervousness or the apprehension that comes in. So so be prepared. Number one is absolutely be prepared. We got 9 more to go. Right. So arrive early.
Let me jump on one. By the way, along with be prepared, when you're nervous, tell people you're nervous. When you tell people you're nervous, they go out of their way to be nice to you, right? I mean, literally, they'll take you by the hand. They'll say, "Oh, don't be nervous. Here, you're going to love it. And here's Bob, and here's Joe." And again, people go out of the way. The other thing is I want to mention, because John's spot on, and I'm glad pre-prepared is number one, by the way. If you've got brochures, anything that's actionable, most people have, if they have your business card, that's a pretty modest amount of real estate to put a lot of information on. So you want to have something actionable. And you really want to have something so when they go home the next day or that evening, they've now got something that kind of reminds you, as opposed to just like, oh, I'm trying to think about something and that's it. Come in. So as opposed to just trying to think about something. So go ahead, John.
All right. So being prepared is number one when it comes to making sure you're starting your networking process off well. Number two is set a target or set an objective. You're there for a reason. It doesn't really matter if you're a roofer or you sell insurance or whatever it is. You're there for a reason. So you want, just like every other marketing exercise, you want to set an objective. You want to set a target. So, for example, what does that mean? It's defining your goal. So you may have, like a personal goal of mine is when I have a 1 hour or hour and 10 minutes, whatever those types of situations, I want to make sure that I walk out with 5 real contacts. Now that's me. That's just me. If you want to go around the room and grab 10 or 15 and going to do the follow-up later, which is number 10, that's fine too. Or if you just want 2 or 3, you don't have a problem with spending 10 or 15 minutes with 2 or 3 prospects that are going to help you. My target is 5 for an hour. I use that because that's about, by the time you get there and do your thing, and that's about 5 10-minute conversations in an hour in between while you slide off of one and others. And so you have to make sure that you keep a target and stay very beneficial on that target.
Absolutely.
Don't set an agenda. In other words, when you go to a networking event, don't pre-program it in your mind. Yes, you want an elevator speech. Yes, you want your business cards. Yes, you want to arrive and make a statement, but you don't want to have a predisposition in mind. An old customer of mine used to tell me when I didn't have the right products, I didn't design the products at the time, I was a salesperson, never predetermine what the customer wants to buy. And so he was from Little Rock, which nothing happens in Little Rock.
That's right.
And so, so basically don't have a set agenda, take the temperature of the room, you've got your materials with you, you've arrived, you now have an assessment capability to see what the temperature of the room is. Is it formal? Is it friendly? Is it suit and tie? Is it shorts and t-shirts? Just try and it doesn't really matter. It can be a networking event on a beach. It can be in a five-star hotel. So whatever it is, take the temperature of the room. Don't preset your own mindset. Just go with the flow. You've prepared, number one, you've set your targets, you've set what you want to get out of it, and just let it flow. Let it come to you, just like writing a song, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's interesting. The more organic, in fact, it's two things. The more organic it feels, the more organic it feels. Now, I know it's kind of a play on words. The second thing is the networking location, the networking group, is not a place where you sell. The networking group is really just a place where you go to say, hi, here I am. This is what I do. What do you do? With an understanding that we're going to have a meaningful conversation or more meaningful conversation sometime in the future. And actually, there's a caveat that I'll be doing in my session that I think will expound upon that. So,
all right, sounds good. So we've got 3 down. Now we're on number 4.
Number 4.
Be a good guest. You are here at the invitation or the request or the social media invitation or whatever. You found out about this event. Somebody's organizing. Somebody's going to be maybe presenting or, depending on the nature. Be a good guest. Take the temperature of the room, like I just said, and find the organizer and just say in advance, thank you for doing this. And that organizer will remember you.
Absolutely.
And when we get to the referral side of networking, that organizer is probably going to be as good a referral source as you're ever going to find. So make sure that you be a really good guest, mingle in a friendly way, help others that are struggling. So in other words, if you happen to be kind of good at networking or good in social environments and you see there's a person over there in the corner all by themselves struggling with this thing, go over and introduce yourself to that person and ask them, what do you think about this? Get them to open up. And when you have your own conversation and learn a little bit more and maybe exchange business cards, then offer to bring that person out into the crowd and introduce them to somebody that you might actually know. And so that will always be something that that person will always remember you because you cared about the fact that that person was at a networking group and struggling with it. Bring him or her into the fold, and that way you'll just create a really, really great impression on yourself. That person will absolutely love you to death forever, and it's a really, really good way to strike up a great, and then show a lot of gratitude. Lots of thank yous, lots of appreciations, lots of understanding, and a lot of gratitude. So, so when it comes to being a good guest, make sure you reach out to the organizers or the hosts, or if it's in a big, find the sales event person of the hotel. That's probably going to be me and the catering manager. Just find all those different people and just thank them for putting on a good event.
Yeah, and by the way, I would also suggest one step further. So if you are at an event and it was something you enjoyed, Post it on your social media. Take a photograph while you're there. Send the host an email that said, thank you so much. It was a wonderful event. I really enjoyed it. Maybe offer to do something with them in the future. You know, hey, I noticed you did this. You know, we have an expertise here. Maybe there's some things we can do cooperatively. Tag them, right? Almost everyone professionally is on Facebook, LinkedIn, things of that nature. So when you do a post, you know, went to this great event at the, you know, XYZ Hotel for ABC event. It was wonderful. The people were great. You know, very organized, very professional. Can't wait till the next one. You tag the person who actually hosted the event, and that'll find its way directly into their email. They will absolutely positively know that you're out there saying wonderful things about them. Keep in mind, people are narcissistic. They generally look at what benefits them. Now, I'm not saying that that makes them selfish, no. But when they see that and then you give positive accolades, they're going to absolutely have a positive feeling for you.
And extend that positive feeling not just by liking a post, but sharing the post.
Yes.
When you share, you're taking that person's post that you're kind of excited about because you're going to go and you're going to tell the world that you're going and you're going to tell your world. So all of a sudden, you know, the 200 people that everybody knows, all of a sudden 200 becomes 200, becomes 200.
Absolutely.
If everybody starts sharing, not just liking, but just sharing the post, then all of a sudden, man, we've got exponential expansion of our potential market. So.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, so be a good guest. Number 5, talk yes, but listen more. This is so critical and such a major element in all of our training. Create a listening environment. Make sure that you know that you're going to get your chance to talk, but ask a really thought-provoking question. Not just, how are you today? You know, that doesn't work. You know, not just, well, what do you do? That just doesn't work either. Find something about it. Find something to compliment the person with. Find a question that causes that person to just pause for 2 or 3 seconds to provoke thought and come back with a very intelligent response. And let them, we have the 70-30 rule here. Let them talk 70% of the time. It doesn't mean 70 first, 30 last.
Right.
It means as the course of the conversation goes, you want to walk away from that conversation with a really good contact, a really good understanding of who you were just talking to. And that usually, if that's going to work, that's usually going to be about allowing them to tell you their challenges and environment and whatever it is for 70% of the time. So make sure that when you talk, you state your objectives and engage, ask good questions, make the comment, and try not to waste time. Don't, you know, this is a targeted networking event. And remember, networking is 3 syllables. The middle syllable is work. Don't forget that networking is work.
It is work.
If it's a social gathering and that's all you're into it for, well, don't expect a whole lot out of it, except maybe seeing all the people that you know in your industry, like at an industry trade show or something like that. That's a different story. We're not talking about something like that. If you're here to get contacts and messaging and make sure people know, go ahead and set your objectives and basically don't waste time. Don't waste time, and we'll be talking about the budget in a second.
I will tick onto that as well. If you set clear expectations, almost like if you've been to a speed networking event, and we actually host one at the Arizona Sands Club. So for the people, by the way, I should also thank the people because I didn't do this. So those that are joining us on Facebook Live, thank you so much. For those that are joining us on YouTube Live, thank you so much. Those that are joining us through Zoom Live, we thank you again. And for those that are ultimately watching this on our Vimeo channel, again, we certainly appreciate that. Anything that we say, by the way, there'll be contact information. You can reach out to us. We can explain it in more detail. If there's handouts or anything like that, we'll make sure that you get everything. So I always like to start with thanking those people. So, but that being said, almost go into it like a speed networking event.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you tell people. So John, let me suggest this, right? Much like a speed networking event. For the first 2.5 minutes, you tell me about you, what a good prospect for you looks like, what struggles you're having in the market, that perfect customer, that you always hope to get. I'll do the same with you, just so we can vacuum up any immediate opportunities with an understanding that you and I would speak offline sometime in the future, set up, grab a beer, and then we can go into more detail. And when you set that clear parameter up front, most people are like, oh, that's a great idea. So it's almost like treating a regular networking event like a speed networking event, and that kind of assures that you're going to make the numbers of quality contacts that you hope to be able to do.
Well put. Number 6.
6.
Enter the networking meeting with a referral mindset. The chances that you're going to walk out with an order with anyone is virtually nil, so don't even do that. Meet people and try to understand their particular challenges, convey your particular challenges, what you can see, but also be in the mindset that I know somebody that might be able to help you.
Absolutely.
You know somebody that may be able to help me. In fact, there's going to be more cases than not that you're going to have 3, 4, 5 people that you're going to say, oh, you know, I can introduce you to these 3, 4, 5 people because that's where it's, you know, because you're going to be able to help them. Even not me, but the fact that I'm a referral mindset, I will go ahead and do some virtual introductions, or if they're in the same room, you know, do face-to-face introductions. And so you can create an entire, almost database, to be callous about it. You can create an entire relationship module that just says, okay, this is my network. This is my professional strategic network. And we can go ahead and just, but if you go in with a referral mindset, you're going to get referrals.
Yep.
If you give referrals, you'll get referrals.
Absolutely.
It's the old
Sure.
tennis match.
Sure. Well, it's a guaranteed way to get a lead. So if you think about it, it's easier for me to sell you than it is for you to sell you. Because if you come out and say, oh my God, I'm a fabulous plumber. Well, that just sounds like the ramblings of a salesperson, right? You expect that person. But if I say you're a fabulous plumber, it must be what? It must be true, because I said it, right? So again, when you think of it in those kinds of terms, and my number 2 will actually be talking about saying yes to everything. So that's a great connective tissue, yeah.
So number 7, it's small, but it sends a quick message. When you start to exchange business cards, obviously, as we said earlier in step number 1, have a lot of them.
Yeah, have a business card.
Have a lot of them. But when you receive a business card from somebody, ask for 2. Ask for 2 and make the statement, well, could you give me an extra one because I just may know somebody that I may want to give this to. And so you've got 1 business card for your own personal stash, and not to throw it in the rubber band in the drawer either. You want a business card to actually mean something to you. And also, though, it sends the referral mindset message. Give me another one, because you just never know who I'm going to run into that's going to need a new roof. Or you never know who I'm going to run into that's going to need an insurance health check to make sure that my own insurance person is being cool with me.
Right.
You know, so you just never know. Always ask for 2 business cards.
I love that.
And so you want to, when I mentioned a little earlier, budgets, and that's not necessarily a money budget, it's a time budget. You know how long you have in this particular networking world. If it's a 30-minute luncheon type of mixer type, if it's an hour, you know, there's evening mixers with chambers of commerce that are 2 hours, you know, which is a bit long for me personally, but you know, more power to them if you want to stay that way or that length. So know, you know, you've got your target, right? You know, if you're going to want to get 5 good leads or 8 good leads or 10 good leads, so take the time that you've got to be there. If it's the full duration, then that's a simple calculation. If you know you're going to have to pull out halfway through the networking session because you've got to do whatever you do to live your life, well, whatever it is, set a productivity budget for you. So make sure that you understand that if your budget says 5-minute conversations, stick to it. Don't allow the conversation to drift off of your objective just because you're having a good time socializing it. Your budget is X amount of leads, X amount of business cards, X amount of referral mindset type of stuff. So if it's 5 leads and you got an hour, do the math and stay on it. So yeah, you do have to watch the clock a little bit, and you do have to make sure that you I just always tell people, when it's time for me to pull up stakes, I just say, you know what, I'm a professional networker. My 10 minutes are up. I'm moving on.
Yep.
I will call you tomorrow. And
then call them.
And then call them, absolutely. That's number 10. But, so manage your time productively, don't over-socialize, and if you do it, everybody in networking is there that understands that they can be better networkers. And if you're pulling away from a conversation, it'll tend to educate them on your ethic, your standard, your best practice when it comes to networking. They'll pick up on that and appreciate it, don't you think?
Very much so, very much so.
So this is another thing that a lot of people do not do. There is no standard out there for the graphic design of a business card. And as a result, there's an awful lot of business cards, and I have them by the hundreds, that if I didn't have this next activity in my mind all the time, I wouldn't know who these people are, because I met them, 3 months ago, so that's why a picture on a business card is always really, really, really important, because it triggers the visual side of the brain to remember who you are. But number 9 is take some critical notes on the back of the business card. Now, let's back up to that. If your business card is glossy on both sides and won't take ink, that's a mistake. Right. When you're trying to do your own business cards. You want a business card, if it's going to be glossy and fancy on one side, you want it to be a matte finish on the back, so you can take your notes. Now there's a lot of things that you can do to take a notes. You can just say, okay, you could do an ABC, or A is a hot lead, B is an okay lead, C maybe someday, or you can do a scale of 1 to 10. I've seen that done, where 10 is just, that's a 10. We got to call that person immediately and schedule a luncheon or schedule some sort of reintroduction, and you scale it down to 6 or 4 or 2 or 1, whatever it is, or be able to describe the name, because if you're in the referral mindset, and I get this particular business card and I said, well, this really applies more to Don than it does to me, I would write Don on it. And just to make sure that when I go to my next number 10, which is follow-up, I'll know exactly who, because you're in a networking group. You're meeting a lot of people in a very short period of time. And also, though, you're still remembering people from the 2 weeks ago or the last month, or, so don't let the embers get cold by not taking some sort of note on the back of a business card.
And I'll give you my personal hieroglyphics. So on the back of the business card for the person I talk to, this is what it would say. A link intro boats. A link intro boats. And it's put down in this category. So what that means is that it's an A candidate, right? So if I've got 20 people that I need to call back, who am I going to call back first, right? They're all important, by the way, but you're going to call the A's first. The link reminds me to connect with them on social media. That's why so many times when you've met with somebody or you come across somebody at a networking event, 2 hours later you get a LinkedIn request or a Facebook request. And if you haven't, you certainly will if you spend more time in this world. So it says A, that tells me that it's a hot prospect. Link reminds me to make sure I connect with them at least on the primary social media. For me, that's Facebook and LinkedIn. John does Twitter and Instagram as well. All right. Intro means that I have to offer them an introduction. Right? Now, there's one of the things we do an entire session. We call it bearing gifts. So if I bring a lead to you, if I bring an opportunity, if I bring you something that's going to increase your opportunities, you can't help but like me. So before I'm going to ask you for something for me, I'm going to prime the pump by giving something to you, right? Maybe as you said, it's not unusual when you're talking to somebody, if you've got a pretty deep Rolodex, it's not hard to be able to pick 4 or 5 different people you want to bear to the conversation. Now, don't bring them all, bring one. This is like tennis. I send you one.
You send me one.
And then I send you one.
You send me one.
Right? Now, if you don't send me one, what don't you get? Well, you don't get one. This is the way the game is played. So, A, link, intro, right? Boats. That reminds me of whatever it is we talked about. Now, I believe every person has special magic. I really do. But even in a business setting, you naturally gravitate. People will comment on my hair. They'll comment on cufflinks, suspenders. You know, now, in New York, this is no big deal. In Tucson, nobody wears a tie. Well, I shouldn't say nobody, but most people don't wear a tie, right? So that's going to come up in the conversation. And I'm going to move them into something that connects us as people. I'm not a representative of Don Zavis Sales Training, and you're a representative of XYZ company. I'm Don, you're Bob. What is that connective tissue that we have? And that's that reminder. So, for example, I'll send you a picture of my boat, or the boat that we had when we were in Michigan. Right? I will, tell you about the boat that I'm looking at. I'll ask you something about your boat, right? If you have a boat, it's always better to have a friend with a boat than have a boat, right? It's like that. It's always better to have a friend with a plane, right? With a boat and a cottage. Those are the 3 things you want to have friends with. I'm working on the plane right now, right? Because they always want you, it's like, hey, come on the boat. I'm like, oh yeah, cool, great. Right? I'll buy the beer, right? I'll fill it up, right? You got to have a friend with a plane. Well, that just goes without saying, right? And you always want a friend with a cottage because there's always someplace cooler to go, right? It's Memorial Day coming up, right? It's cool. We're going to come to your place. I'll bring the beer. It's kind of a go-to thing. I bring the beer for everything. There you go.
Number 10. I kind of lost count after that. Number 10, follow up.
My wife gave me a new allergy medicine this morning. I'm pretty wired.
I should have had that the other day. Anyway, one of the most important and less articulated important steps in networking is you got to follow up. That 1 hour or that hour and a half or that class that you come to or that seminar that you travel to, if you don't follow up with those connections, you've just made your investment in time and money absolutely worthless. And that's what this is. This is not a cost. This is an investment. It's an investment in your business. It's an investment in your education. It's your investment in your industry or your world, whatever it is. Even if it's a networking type of thing at your local PTA, your local faith-based organization. Doesn't really matter. You've got your targets. You got your time. You've invested possibly some money. Don't let it go to waste without following up, because that's really, really unfortunate when that happens. It happens more often than you think. Whereas you invest the time, you meet a lot of great people, have a lot of new relationships, and all of a sudden you just follow through. You don't follow through on a 24-hour basis because life takes over.
Yep.
You leave the room, and all of a sudden the kids are screaming, and your boss is on your tail, and you've got all these customer-client things that you got to deal with, and you lose the momentum that you had when you left the networking, feeling great about exactly what you did. So in short, in summary, the 10 things that you got to make sure you understand and perform when it comes to networking is you gotta be prepared. Yep. Do your homework. Make sure you know the message you want to send. Walk into the place in a timely manner. If you want to talk to the people, to certain people, like the people that arrive early, you're going to get higher quality conversations, because when at the end of the meeting, a lot of people are scurrying because everybody's pressed for time. If you've got somebody that you really want to meet, like the presenter or something along those lines, getting a one-on-one with that person at the end of the session is going to be more difficult, because there's going to be 10 people that want that same conversation. Number 2, get yourself an objective, set yourself a target. Number 3, Don't have a set agenda. Take the temperature of the room. Make sure you walk in knowing what you want to get done, but don't predetermine what you expect. Just let it come to you. Number 4, be a good guest. Thank the people that need to be thanked, and give them their business card. Give them your business card so that they'll remember you when because these people they organize on a regular basis. Catering managers cater all the time. Sales event managers sell events all the time. Make sure you get in front of their wheelhouse. Make sure you get in front of their eyes, and just be a good guest. Talk, yes, but listen more. 70-30 rule. Make sure that you really engage the person first with allowing them to talk about themselves. Don has always got a line that says, people always want to talk about themselves.
Absolutely, sure. It's their favorite topic.
It's their favorite topic,
Sure.
Exactly right. So go in with a referral mindset. Make sure that when you go in, you're saying, I'm just not here for me, but I'm here for my network and for all the people that I know and have professional relationships with, because the more I give them, the more they'll give me back. So don't just go into a one-on-one conversation thinking that it's transactional one-on-one. Open up the mindset a little more, and make sure you're also thinking about others in your world. So give referrals, yes. Ask for 2 business cards, because that just sends a message. And you can just say, in case I find somebody that needs your stuff, it may not be me, but it may be Don, or it may be some other person. And that just sends a message that says, all right, you're on board here. You get what I'm trying to say, and it's going to help you over the long haul down the road a lot. And manage your time productively, and basically make sure that when you budget, you're budgeting time to make sure that you don't over-socialize. And finally, the last 2 is you want to make sure you do some sort of scribing on the back of a business card so helps you remember, and you want to make sure, above all, follow up the next day. Those are the 10 important tips that anyone can do in networking, and everybody should do in networking.
Absolutely. That's why he's a professor, by the way. So excellent, John, as always. By the way, networking is the only place you can go where they will feed you, let you drink, let you tell jokes, hang out with your buddies, and then you call it work. No, really. I mean, when was the last time you went to work and they said, hey, you want a beer? Hell yeah, right? How do you like your steak? Oh, medium, thank you, right? And you call that work. And that's why I really struggle with people that don't understand the value of this. Excellent, John, as always. Is he in frame, by the way? Okay, I want to make sure. So my session is going to be...
I wouldn't ever leave
yeah, exactly. My session is going to be on affinity groups. So if you don't know what an affinity group is, I'm going to tell you right now. Affinity groups. Affinity groups are nothing more than like-minded people that have bonded together for a common cause. So if you're taking notes, write that down. An affinity group is nothing more than like-minded individuals that have bonded together for a common cause. So, for example, the Kiwanis is an affinity, Rotary is an affinity group. Your churches will have, chambers of commerce are affinity groups. Yeah. BNIs are, they're vast among the ones that are out there, right? And they're literally in every possible industry that you want. There is some group of like-minded people that have banded together for a common cause. The common cause could be raising money for charities, for children, to eradicate disease, to save the whales, to hug the trees. You get to pick whatever it is, because there is no limit to the ones that are out there. But here's the reality about affinity groups. Because I was talking to a Kiwanis club, this is probably 2 years ago, and they were having a problem with membership, keeping people engaged, right? Having people, they had like 200 members and like 5 would show up. And then nobody would pay their dues on time. Nobody, they do all these events where they try to do amazing things for the community, and everybody had another reason. And so the group that was there, I said, well, if you think about it, what you do, they don't need you for. Like, for example, can you donate money to a children's hospital? Absolutely. Sure. Can you donate money to a church? Absolutely. I'm Catholic. You can donate to mine. All right? But the reality is that you don't need these affinity groups, but you want them. There's something very primordial about the idea of socializing with like-minded people, right? You know, what's the first thing you do when you join a bowling team? What's the first thing they give you? Your shirt with their name on it, right? Their name's on the back. It's our natural inclination to want to band together with like-minded people, and yet we can do the very same thing that they provide without them. We can volunteer at a hospital. We don't need to be part of a Rotary, and yet we seek out other people that think like us. Now, you can expand that in just the common market. For example, LA Fitness, right? All these fitness companies that are out there, health clubs, certainly church organization, meetups, right? Something as simple as a meetup. And if you're not familiar with it, meetup.com, and they'll explain what it is. You join chambers. You'll join lead groups. You'll join business organizations and women's organizations and construction organizations, right? And business organizations. The problem being is that most people are quick to join, but they're very slow to bring their feet into this, right? They have like-minded people. It makes sense to get into it, and yet they don't. So the number one on affinity groups, I want you to write this down. If invited, go. If invited, go. Go. Now, I know that sounds so strange when I say that, if invited, go, but what that means is most people, or many people, get involved in these organizations and they never participate in the very opportunities that they join the organization for, right? It's the person who joins LA Fitness. And as they're going through the tour at LA Fitness, the tour guide is saying, yes, and we're opened up 24 hours a day. So if you want to work out at 3 o'clock in the morning, we're here for you. And now you as a prospect, you know what you say? You go, nice. You know what the chances of me being there at 3 o'clock in the morning are? About nothing, right? But yet, when I bought it, I was like, well, it's open 24 hours, 7 days a week. On the odd chance that I have insomnia and this overwhelming desire to drag my butt out of bed at 3 o'clock in the morning, which is really unlikely to happen. And if I did, Mrs. Zavis would follow me because she'd be convinced I was up to no good, all right? So if invited, go. So if you join the Chamber of Commerce, and you pay $400 to join, and you pay some amount of money each week, or it's a dues, or the Sands Club where John and I were founding members at. People invest a lot of time, money, and effort to get involved in something, and then they don't do the very same thing that made sense for them to get involved. If invited, go. Now, I'll tell you a great example. And John, I want you to get your thoughts on this on the end. Autopsy, so if somebody is supposed to come to an event, right, networking or whatever it is, and they don't come, for whatever reason, I like to call them an autopsy, kind of why didn't you come, right? You were going to come, you couldn't come, right? Now, sicknesses and that kind of stuff notwithstanding. And I'll say, well, why didn't you come? It's like, oh, him and haw and bullshit reason. Oh, I'm sorry. All right. I can't even recover from that. Edit that out. All right. But the idea is that, yeah, exactly, yeah. Right? But the idea is, so they don't come. So I say, well, you must have had a great meal with your family. You know what they say? Yeah, I just had leftovers. Right? Well, yeah, but you must have had a lot of laughs and, drank beer and, hung out with your loved ones and your friends, right? And they're like, no, I just kind of stayed around and watched TV. All right? And then you just go down the list of all the great camaraderie and laughs and funs and all these great things that we do. When I was young, when I was 16 years old, the night didn't start until midnight, right? My band didn't go on until midnight. That meant that my night, because we were playing, didn't start until midnight, right? My God, midnight now, it's like, I see midnight when somebody's in the ER. That's about it at this point, right? So if invited, go. That's number one. So many people get involved in something, and the funny thing about it is when they go, they're like, oh my God, I had a great time. I got 5 new leads. I met this amazing new person. I got this great tip. I got blah, 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 blah. In an affinity group, again, you're not obligated to be involved. If invited, go. Number 2, I'm going to make sure I keep my list and thing. Allow yourself to be hunted first. Hunted first. All that really means is most people that go to some kind of a networking group go to sell. All right? So think of it like this. You have a room full of tigers. What do you think happens in a room full of tigers? Right? Nobody eats at all because it's a room full of tigers, right? There's nothing there. Now, I'm using an analogy that maybe is a little bit more severe than what it is. But I always go to be hunted first. That's why, John, you were so accurate when you said, I go there to try to buy, right? It's like, what do you do? Well, I sell auto insurance. Great. You'll have my declaration page on your desk tomorrow. Take a look at what I got. Can you work me a better deal? I say yes to everything. It doesn't mean that I buy everything, but I say yes to everything. I'm hoping you can sell me, right? I'm hoping whatever you have is better than what I have. And that doesn't mean cheaper. I would much prefer to pay the same amount of money. So if you said, well, listen, I can't beat your price on your auto insurance, but I can give you a policy that's 2 times better. Sold. Sold, right? So it isn't necessarily cheaper, but it's better. But the nice thing about it is I have this litmus test, this filter, where everything in my world is constantly being evaluated. And as a result of that, I get the best deals on everything because it's being constantly evaluated. Because most people, if you met that sold auto insurance at a networking event, what do most salespeople, what do most people say?
Do you have insurance?
Right? And they're going to say, oh, yep, all right, I already got an auto insurance guy, I'm good. Well, wouldn't you like to know if there's something better? Right? Because they're they're so afraid of being sold that they think these people have some kind of like mind control that are going to make you do something that you don't want. Now, I'm an amazing salesperson, but I'll tell you, if you don't want what I'm selling, there's nothing I can do. In fact, I'm smart enough to know if I'm not going to make a sale, when do I want to find out? Right away. And get the hell out. Right? So if you think about it. So number 2, hunt it first. Go there, allow yourself. And John was perfect. You're going to get around to you. But I want to find out what you are, who you are, what you do, what you need, how you get there. You'll find the defensive posture just drops when they start talking about themselves.
Yes.
Absolutely. Your thoughts, Mr. WAECHTER? Well, I slurped my coffee.
Okay. My thoughts are no different than they've always been. Mm-hmm. You know what? We've got a couple of clients that come, when it comes back to combining these two, the hunted first within the Affinity Group. Yep. They don't realize how much is there for them.
Oh, God, yes.
You know, because they talk. Mm-hmm. They talk first. They don't realize the environment that they're in because they're like-minded, you know, and that all these people love, you know, especially in something like like a faith-based type of group versus a chamber.
Yes, yes.
But they're all there. They all have the same religious mindset or the faith mindset. And like one of my clients, how many of those people know what you do? You're a financial planner, right?
Yes.
How many people know that you can help them secure their future forever? And he'd say, oh, probably about 2%, 3%, you know, out of a few hundred congregations. Yeah. I'm sitting there going, well, we got to change that.
Absolutely, sure.
We've got to change
God
that.
never said be poor, right? At least my God didn't, so, all right? So let's keep going. By the way, perfect insight. Number 3, hit list. All right, most people don't do a good job communicating what a good prospect to them looks like, right? They'll say, well, I'm a plumber. So I guess the perfect lead for a person that's a plumber is what? Something leaking. Now that's what we call a buying unit, right? So a buying unit is a person that would actually buy the product or service that you sell. But there's a second part of leads that's often overlooked, and it's someone that could forward your interest. So one part of a lead is a buying unit. The second part of a lead is someone who could forward your interest. Like, so for example, if a buying unit for a plumber is somebody who has a leak, who would be a good introduction for a plumber? Doesn't have to have a leak, but who would be a good introduction for a plumber? You take a stab? A realtor. Sure, absolutely, because they're going to come into houses that have leaks and pipe issues and all kinds of things like that. Now, if you thought about that, if you were a forward-thinking plumber, you would want to tell somebody, hey, I want an introduction to a contractor or a real estate person. But most people don't. Why? Because they say when you're a plumber, all your buying, right, your buying focus is somebody who has a leak. The problem being is when you have that 5 minutes with somebody, you don't do a good job in communicating all this like scroll, right, roll down the street of all the potential people you could help, right? That plumber, a contractor might be perfect, right? Apartment maintenance person, because they have lots of toilets and lots of sinks, and dumb people do crazy stuff with them because they don't own them, right? And you just go down the list. But when you're in front of that person, you're not going to remember all of those at that point. Right. That's why we suggest a hit list. If you ever watch the show, what's it called? It's 2 guys travel around the country.
Pickers.
Yes, the Pickers, but there was a name for it.
American Pickers.
American Pickers, right. If you watch the first couple, 2, 3 seasons of American Pickers, it's this tall guy and this little fat guy, and they drive around the country and they just look for like barns just overflowing with crap. And they would pull up in front and be like, and a big sign on the truck that says antiques and things like that. And they'd say, hey, listen, we buy, antiques and old motorcycles and this kind of stuff. What do you got? All right, and this guy's barn is just, stuff falling out anywhere. Well, I think it was either season 3 or season 4. Because they buy a lot of stuff, but when you're standing on the guy's porch, right, and he's got a shotgun right behind him because you shouldn't be on his porch, right, and you're like in the South, they don't do a good job of communicating everything. So on season 3 or 4, they came out with a list. Real smart, right? So when they would go knock on your door, and they'd say, hi, we're American Pickers, and we buy, and they would give them a list of all the stuff they want. Has like 40 things on the list, old toys and dolls and old bicycles and motorcycles and blah, 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 more than they would ever remember standing on the guy's front porch trying to remember. And the guy just looks and goes, oh yeah, I got old toys. Yeah, I got some old bikes. Here, right over here, right in the barn. And it was interesting how much more efficient and effective their picking was when they told the person what they wanted. Going back to my plumber. So what if the plumber had a hit list and it said, well, I want to talk to real estate agents. And of course, I want to talk to somebody who has a leak. But I also want to talk to apartment maintenance people. I want to talk to contractors. I want to talk to irrigation, landscapers, irrigation specialists.
Home inspectors.
Home inspectors, right?
Appraisers.
Sure. All the stuff that you would never think of when you're standing in front of them. And now when they leave the networking agreement, and this is where the true value comes in, they now take something with them that is actionable for the next day. And you can look at it and go, oh yeah, I have a real estate agent friend of mine. Right, yeah, hey Bob, I just talked to a plumber yesterday. You don't happen to have any plumbing things going on? Bob's like, yeah, I'm trying to find somebody right now for a tub. Well, hold on, let me have him call you. But again, without the hit list, it's not something. So when you meet somebody for that 5 seconds, here, this is everybody I want introductions to. There you go. That's it.
And this day and age, you get the response, my guy's 4 weeks out. I can't find anybody.
Exactly. Next item on the affinity links, look at all the connection points you have. I'm just going to write social media plus. Social media plus, all right? All that basically means is if you're in an affinity group, this affinity group, again, like-minded people banding together for a common goal. But most people keep it secret, right? They're part of a Rotary and they never tell anybody. They're part of a and they never tell anybody. Right? They have all this great ability and they have this great faith if it's faith-based, and they have all this grand desire to volunteer and save the whales and hug the trees and help the kids and eradicate disease, and the only person that knows it is them because they do nothing to communicate that to the rest of the world. Imagine what would happen if you, again, for the 200 people that are circling your universe, imagine what would happen if you started to talk about your Rotary relationship or your Kiwanis or your chamber or whatever it is, yet most people don't. If you're going to be in a group, be in it.
Right.
Your goal is to make it better, which brings us to the next item, which is commit to one new member monthly. One member monthly. Now, we live in a world where people, for some reason, feel like if they tried, that's enough. I'm not sure when that switched. Because there was a period of time where it's like Yoda, right? I always love the Yoda line, right? Do or do not, there is no try. I mean, it really is, right? Like Yoda, he's this little small guy, and he's like, look, if you just think that showing up is the win, right? We're coming from a world where every kid gets a trophy, right? You can't have A, B, C, D anymore because you'll hurt people's feelings. And then we throw them out to a world that really doesn't give a crap about their feelings. And then we wonder why we have all the tragedies that we do. I don't know. How about be serious? Commit to one new member. Because most membership organizations, most affinity groups, the Rotaries and the Kiwanises and the Chambers and all those types of groups, they struggle, first of all, to get new members, keep new members, do all the things related to members. If you bring a new member in every month or you really, really, really put a huge focus on it, I will tell you they will think you walk on water. Absolutely walk on water. They will promote you to the nth degree because you've earned it. Most people get involved with things and never do anything. They barely show up. That's why if invited go is the first thing. God forbid you actually try to get a member. Well, if it made sense for you to be in and you didn't, keep it a secret, maybe there are other people in your world that have that great sense of faith.
There's just a recent piece by an author by the name of Robert Glazer, who just had a piece out this morning that said, understand the difference between happy when and happy now. And the fact of the matter is, so many of our people that network in affinity groups and in even our groups, they're more the happy when. They will be happy when they get a new account. They will be happy when they are rich enough to buy a house. Instead of understanding, staying in the moment and making sure that those referrals are now, that those commitments that you make and that follow-up is now. And that's really, really important when it comes to executing this list.
Well, it is, and by the way, most of this has little or no cost. I mean, it's not like this costs anything. So the only way this doesn't work is if you don't do it. So it may take some time, maybe a little bit of discipline, but it really doesn't take a lot of cost or anything. There's no disproportionate negative financial disincentivization. Like, for example, we talk about sponsoring. For the events you go to, maybe you can get a table. Maybe they've never done it before, but you can ask them. I love to sponsor the goodie bags, right? You ever seen, like, you go to places and you have like a goodie bag and it has, everybody puts their pens and trinkets and, business cards and flyers and stuff in there. Blazing with Don Zavis Sales Training. Now think about that. If you offer that to your group, you think, I don't know, they might take it. Sure they will, but most people don't. Again, most people struggle even to go, let alone try to do more. If you get involved with something, we have what we call implementation strategies. When you actually get involved with a Rotary or chamber or event, there are multiple things you want to do that you can maximize your involvement. You don't need 1 million people in your world to be rich beyond your wildest dreams. You need about 12.5 very seriously committed people that are going to hunt for you, that are going to look for opportunities, that are going to bring the 200 people that are circling their universe to bear. And yet, that's a mistake a lot of people make. They have 7,000 friends in Facebook, and I always kiddingly say 4 are going to come to my funeral. 5 if John comes, right?
I'm not on his Facebook.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah. My wife always going to call him, right? But see, the idea is that what we think that because we have all these people out there and we give them names like friend and stuff, it's meaningful. It's not. It's meaningless. Deep connections. It's the idea of being a mile wide. You know a lot of people, but only an inch deep. You know a lot of people, but just a little bit. So instead of knowing a lot of people just a little bit, I'd rather you know less people, but far more intimately. So instead of a mile wide and an inch deep, I want you to be an inch wide and a mile deep. Far more intimately than just these random people out there. These are the people that are going to hunt for you. They're going to look for you. They're going to do these things for you.
It's our backyard.
It's exactly. Sponsor. Look for ways to kind of work your way into it. Sponsor an ad, a banner ad on their website. Now, there may be a small cost. There may not be, but you don't know unless you try. And yet most people struggle to just even go, to do anything. So the things I'm talking about, it's like I showed them fire for the first time. Next thing is you always have to have a non-unique next step. Non-unique. I-Q-U-E.
We'll let it slide. We're not watching.
I don't know if that says unique.
We're not watching Jeopardy.
Right, because I spell like crap. But that's supposed to say unique. So if you're looking at it, this says unique. So you write it down properly, right? You have to have a non-unique next step. Most people are afraid of being sold because they think you'll say, well, let's get together for coffee. And here's what they think of, right? I'm now sequestered away from everybody else with just this person, right? He's going to really pressure me into buying something, and I don't want to go there. I don't want to do that. No. You have to have a non-unique next step. Hey, Bob, at 9 o'clock every Monday morning we do a conference call on various sales topics. I'd love to have you join us. Now, here's what I know. If Bob joins us, what's he basically saying? I'm interested. Why? Because you never listen to what people say. You only listen to what they do. Their actions speak louder than words. So you get the prospect that says, I'm interested, I'm interested, I'm interested, I'm interested, and they don't return your calls. But they said they were interested, so we as dumbass salespeople, it's like we call them 97 times, right? They don't call us back. They avoid our texts. They disappear from the face of the earth. A non-unique next step is what we call a do, D-O. It's a diagnostic for me to determine the legitimacy of your interest. Because if I invite you to the conference call and you come, That means something. If I invite you to a one-on-one or something they perceive as a potential selling environment, they're going to be less reluctant to do that. Now, here's what I say. Given the choice of having one conversation with 50 people or having 50 conversations individually, which would you prefer? Now, I prefer one conversation with 50 people, right? And the people that it resonates to will raise their hand essentially and say, yeah, let's talk more. And the people that hear it and it doesn't resonate with them and they say, no, I'm not interested, well, thank you for coming. Good luck with that. Mm-hmm. So a non-unique next step, conference call, webinar, could be a live event, but something that isn't unique to them. It's something that you do all the time, so you're just kind of letting them jump on something that's already, the train's already going. You're just allowing them to jump on it as opposed to creating something new for every single person, every single person, every single person. Non-unique next step. Let's keep going because I want to make sure we get all these things.
I like the free steak idea, though.
Oh, absolutely free steak. Well, and I will tell you that, and I know we say that kiddingly, but here I will tell you, I do this all the time. Here's what I'll say. You know what? I don't know if I can help you, but take me out, buy me lunch, tell me your woes. If I can help you, I will. If I can't, I can't. And by the way, I don't go anyplace crappy. Now, I know that sounds like, you're being a dick, right? No, not at all. People are like, sure. How about Fleming's? I'm like, okay, yeah, but you got to go on Tuesday because the waiter always works on Tuesday. Now people are like,
don't forget the senior citizens early bird.
Oh, I'm not paying. What the hell do I care, right? It's like, no, I'm not a cheap wine, none of this cheap stuff. I want the 20-year-old bourbon. I call it networking so I can drink. All right. So the idea ultimately is a non-unique next step. You want to have something that you can kind of, and think of it as a funnel. You're like putting lots of different varying kinds of people in the top of your funnel, right? And they have different things. And as it works its way through the funnel, you can determine the legitimacy. So you're not wasting a lot of time with someone who is never going to be something, right? It's kind of like, it's like a group interview, right? If you're interviewing for a job and you have a group interview and you get in front of everybody and you say, here's the salary, here's the benefits, here's the expectations, here's the travel requirements, here's the educational requirements, blah, 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 and then the group can kind of self-select. So the guy can say, yeah, I don't want to travel 50% of the time. It's like, okay, cool, thanks for coming, bye. But again, most people don't think like that because you have to build this in front of this. So when you go to the networking group, you already have to have the conference calls or webinars or events or whatever it is in place. Non-unique next step. Because nothing's worse than getting that call 5 minutes ahead of time. It's like, oh, I'm sick. I can't come.
Creating your own steps is cheap.
Oh, absolutely, sure. It has to be crafted, it has to be created. It is a process. This isn't random. Professional selling is not random. It is not haphazard. It is very strategic. It is very tactical. And that's why our clients double and triple their business. Because first of all, we have them stop doing the crap that doesn't work, and we focus on the stuff that does work. Why? Because they're experts at what they do. They're expert CPAs. They're expert plastic surgeon. They're expert dentists. But you know what they're not good at? Sales. They're not good at sales. But I will tell you, nothing happens in any industry until somebody sells something. So, non-unique next step. Let's keep going here. You got to have a special program for the group. A special program for the group. So we did a session yesterday over at the Arizona Sands Club, and one of the young ladies that was there worked for a commercial maintenance company. They also did residential maintenance as well, like cleaning, house cleaning, and stuff like that. And she said, well, what can I do to really make a big splash? I said, when you come next time, I would love for you to have a flyer. And on the top of that, it says special program for the Arizona Sands Club Business Networking Events guests. And I would literally suggest that you make something unique to us, just for us. Maybe it's a special discount, maybe it's a special program, maybe it's a special service you do, but make it unique to us. Right? As soon as you join American Express, what do they say? Well, here's our relationship we have with Hertz, and here's our relationship with Avis, and you can buy stuff from Office Depot for 30% discount, and you can go to the Hilton for this, and you can fly in American Airlines for that. You want to be able to have that compelling reason, and you want to be unique to that person. We are doing this unique to just this group. People want to know that their relationships are special. It's not the same stuff that everybody else under the sun. So you can have the Arizona Sands Club Business Networking roof review, complimentary roof review. And in the complimentary, I'm making this up, by the way, right? So the complimentary, you get 5 photographs, 3 interior, 3 exterior, the condition of your roof. You get a video. We send the drone up, and it flies all over the place. We'll give you a written maintenance recommendation, and we'll grade the quality of your roof from 1 to 10. Anything less than 5 means it's likely going to be compromised in the next 72 months. In a ballpark, yeah, I'll take that. Sure, why not? If you know how much it's going to be, that's what it is. Whether they like it doesn't make any difference, right? I mean, if they get enough rain on their head, right, the missus gets pissed enough, the husband will pay any amount to stop that. Perfect example. All right, so let's keep going. All right, so a special program, and yet people walk in the door and they treat everybody the same way. Don't do that. You want these people to feel special. You want them to feel unique. You want them to feel part of something that everybody else can't be part of. Am I doing a good job communicating that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Of course you are.
Okay.
You always do a good job communicating that.
That's okay. Blow smoke at me. I like it. Vanity works. All right. By the way, most of these organizations have some kind of communique with their members.
Right.
So it could be a newsletter. Maybe it's a e-blast. Maybe it's a text blast. But chambers and us for the Sands Club and the Kiwanis and the Rotaries and the Elks Club and the Moose Club and the LBNs and the BNIs and the blah, 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 blah. They generally have some kind of communique that they have with their members. Mm-hmm. And I love to be able to say, because you think about it, if they have 500 members at the chamber, I don't want to reinvent the wheel. If the chamber puts a little blurb in there, they're going to look at it, but not for me. It's like, that's why I love to speak at chambers and affinity groups, because they put the people in the room. I don't, right? When I come there, the chamber has 50 people in the room. All I got to do is be brilliant, because I didn't put the people in the room. Now, that's a story for another day about how you can utilize the affinity groups. But ultimately, the idea is that these affinity groups have the mechanism for you to communicate your unique value proposition to everybody on the list, everybody who's there.
Let me give you an example of lack of participation of an affinity group. And that's where affinity groups get it wrong a lot of times, though. Mm-hmm. So, but if you understand it and see it, you can prevent it.
Yep.
I did a telemarketing campaign for a chamber, 600-person chamber, and I can't tell you how many. It was selling an e-newsletter for the mm-hmm. chamber.
Yep.
How many people said, "I've been part of this chamber, paying every year for 15 years. I've not gotten a lead out of it yet."
Yep.
And I had to tiptoe. I couldn't dive into that, but I would say, well, just how many times have you engaged the chamber versus the chamber engaging you? And well, I don't engage the chamber much at all. I go, do you do any of the newsletters?
Yeah.
No. Do I even go to the mixers? Well, no, I don't. But the chamber promised me that if I join the chamber, there's going to be business coming my way.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't work that way.
No,
There's no one-way street.
You hear people all the time saying, well, I don't get anything out of it.
Yeah.
You don't put anything into it.
Exactly.
Right? I mean, you don't. I mean, if you look at every relationship, every chamber we've ever gotten involved with, we made money day one. Period. That's it. Why? Because we know how to do it. We know how to go in, how to plug in, how to get involved, how to maximize the opportunity, how to maximize your involvement, how to make sure if you go to a mixer or you go to an event, you get center stage, which is the last one on our list. So for those that are taking notes, I want you to write this down. 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Every event that I go to, I need to have at least 5 minutes of all eyes on me, right? Now, yes, I have a giant ego, and that probably doesn't hurt, right? But the idea ultimately is that if I'm in a room with 100 people, and it's only an hour event, there's no way in the world I'm going to have any kind of meaningful conversation with everybody, right? I didn't get to spend, I'd have to spend, I think we calculated out like, 51 seconds or something like that with each of the 100 people to hit everybody. But if I have all eyes on me for at least 5 minutes and nobody talking, all eyes on me, I can use that time to produce and deliver a very, very specific message. The easiest way to do that is bring in a really, really, really good door prize. Bring in a really, really good door prize. Right? It could be something as simple as a $75 tablet. You can go down to Target and buy one. But how would you like to have all eyes on you for 5 minutes listening to your sales pitch? Now, I bring in those little digital recorders, little handheld digital recorders, because that really lends itself to sales training and coaching, right? It's kind of a cool techie thing. We buy them for 30 bucks. We buy them in sets of 12, but we give them away as a door prize. So you call the chamber, the Moose Club, the Rotary, wherever you're going to, and say, hey, listen, if I bring in a really, really, really good door prize, would I be able to do a little pitch in front of the group? And what I'll do is I'm going to bring in a fishbowl, and I'm going to ask everybody to put their business card in the fishbowl, and that's what we're going to use to draw the name from. And I like to bring in these really, really cool handheld digital recorders, because if you're a salesperson, you're driving down the street, right? You're going 60 miles an hour. You see a potential, lead or new building going up, or you're driving down the expressway and you see a truck that's got a sign for a company that might be a good prospect. Well, you're probably not going to pull over and write it down, probably, right? How are you going to record it? I got my little digital recorder. XYZ Frozen Foods. I'm right here on I-10. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And then when I get landed wherever I am, I just push rewind and push play. And now I remember. So that little gift that we buy for less than $30 lines up properly with the sales training methodology that John and I have. And when I say that, they're like, absolutely sure. Now, think of what I get out of this. Yes, I do pull one name out of the fishbowl, and that person gets the prize. But now what do I have still in the fishbowl?
Dozens of cards.
Of everybody who wanted to participate. And that's a perfect opportunity to come back and say, and sometimes I'll even say we got a second prize, but we're not going to be drawing that till next week. Again, you're only limited by your own creativity. But for those 5 minutes, I got the room. I got the room, right?
And another tactic that you can use is if you're considering joining an affinity group,
Absolutely.
and it costs you a couple $100, $400, maybe a large chamber a little bit more, make that part of the negotiation. That director of membership is going to listen to everything you say.
Absolutely.
And you're going to say, okay, I'll join, and I'll be your gold member or your silver member or whatever, but this is what I want. I want 5 minutes, 3 breakfasts a year, something, something, something. Or a lunch and learn.
Well, or how would you like for $400 to be able to have the names, the phone numbers, the email addresses, all the personal contact information to the hundreds of members they have, but the real value is when you call them and say, hey, I'm an Oro Valley Chamber of Commerce member. You're an Oro Valley Chamber of Commerce member, and I have a question. You think that call gets returned? Hell yeah, it does. Yeah. Why? Because they just paid $400, just like me, to be a member. They want to know that their membership is giving them value. So that the idea of affinity groups, again, is like-minded people coming together. But most people, when they join, they really never fully exploit. And when I say exploit, I don't mean in a negative, like take advantage way. But they don't fully exploit what's directly in front of them. And that's why people, when they'll say, well, how are you going to triple your business? Well, I'm going to stop you doing the stupid crap that doesn't work, and I have you start doing the crap that does work. Right? Now, here's the problem. Will you do it? That's probably the bigger issue. It takes discipline. It's hard, right? Getting rich is hard. It's a 7-day-a-week full-time job. And that's why so few people do it, because it's hard. Nowadays, it's like, oh, hard work. Oh, gosh, please. No, but it's easy. Yep. It really is easy when you understand the things that work. All of our training and coaching is based on human dynamics. If you understand the relationship between stimulus and response, if you can control the stimuluses, you're likely going to be able to control the responses. Yell fire in a crowded theater. Everybody's going to react the same way. Right? Now, that's a very severe example. But people are just people. If you can understand what influences them, how they understand the things they're trying to get together, and you can help them further their interests, they're more than happy to help you further your interests. So, Mr. Wechter, I know that you're actually joining me, but we'll keep you on the chair. But what did you think of our session?
Well, I think that it's a really, really good reminder of the things we have to do. But also, in addition to that, we always seem to forget about we define value. We join a group or an affinity group, we'll go through the motions, we'll go to network, we define the value. So if you sit there and say, this group does not provide me any value, the onus is on you, because you didn't really strategically target your definition of value and go after it and do the mechanisms it takes to do it. So this is all about bringing value back to your business, to yourself, and these are just tools.
Yeah, well, it also, by the way, that you struck upon something very important. You know, you can't control other people. You can't control other circumstances. You can only control yourself. And when I've had people say, you know, well, it's not a good chamber, they're not a good Rotary group, they're not a good BNI. And of course, my answer is always the same. You know, if you, and I'll use the illustrations I always use, right? If you want better kids, be a better parent, right? That makes sense, right? You want a better boss, be a better employee. You want better employees, be a better boss. You want a better spouse, be a better spouse. You want a better brother, be a better brother or sister. You want a better neighbor, be a better neighbor. You can't control anyone else, but you can 100% control you. And the mistake many people make in sales is I can't control who buys. I can't arm wrestle somebody to the ground and, you know, make them say uncle and sign the dotted line. But I can control the behaviors that create a buying environment. I can control the prospecting and the events, and when I go to the events, what I do, and how I take advantage of, you know, how I take the advantage of them. I can control all that, so I can't control who buys, but I can control the behaviors that create a buying environment. And again, you're right, this is just a tool. But I will tell you, it's one that is so underutilized and has little or no cost involved with it. The only disincentivization is the discipline and focus that it takes. So I want to go around the room real quick, just do a learning verification. Mitch, what you got? But it's good. We actually play for the cameras, but so if there's anybody in the audience, I'm gonna talk to. What did you get from today?
I really appreciated the referral, offering a referral to somebody first.
Yes.
That, you know, as you say, it's always easier to do business with somebody that you already done business with.
Oh, absolutely.
You just offered that up.
Yes.
It's gold.
Right, but I would go one step further. And I actually brought these in, but I want you, this isn't for our shameless plug, but I want you to see these. These are the referral cards we make up. Now, I have people all the time say, well, I get all my business from referrals. And I'll say, oh, that sounds great. How many referrals you get last year? And they go, 2. You getting referrals is a focused entity, right? This is not haphazard. This is not random. We give hundreds of these away. And because we give hundreds of these away, that's very specific. You give me a lead, even on the back, it says whether or not we sell them. Because the mistake most people make is what? Well, if I sell something, you'll get a cut. Well, I'm not going to waste a lot of time if you're an idiot salesperson. This basically says, if you introduce me to somebody that's legitimate, right? Not your mom or something like that, right? You introduce me to somebody legitimate, we give you a $50 card. Kind of looks like this one, by the way. It's a Visa debit card. Now, I have people that will do 2 and 3 of these. And this is the happiest money I ever give anybody. Now, I'm not using this as a shameless plug for us, right? Because, again, my ego's already too big. But the idea is this isn't haphazard. This isn't random. When you print thousands of these and you commit to giving out lots of them, you think you might get a referral?
One referral a week gives you a month worth of sales training.
Yeah, exactly.
On the house.
Yeah. So we often, again, so nothing is haphazard, everything is structured, everything is specific. So, Mr. WAECHTER, any other words of wisdom to share to our audience?
Referrals are value first.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
Value first,
Sure.
without expectation. Just provide value.
Right.
Provide everything to everybody that you possibly can.
Right.
It'll come back to you.
Well, and I will tell you, you'll know when you do it right, when the person giving you the referral or the introduction is so over the top. We probably spend most of our time talking the person down to what the reality is. Like, you know, yeah, I talked to Bob, he said, you're the most amazing sales trainer that's ever walked the face of the earth since Jesus. And I'm like, okay, thank you for the kind words, but why don't you like dial that back just a little bit, right? You know, the fact we had great success with Bob is no guarantee we're going to have great success with you. But so many people do that, and I think that's the mistake. And you could tell when you've done it right, because again, Bob's, you know, doubled his business, tripled his business, so he wants to tell the world. It's like he's got the cure for cancer, and he wants to let every one of his friends know, right? And that's why. So, but it is tactical. It's structured. You have to have it. It's not random, and it's not haphazard. So, thank you. Perfect ending point. So, thank you so much. Thank you for those that are joining us. So, we're going to catch you too. What'd you get from today?
What I really enjoyed was the attitude of gratitude and being thankful during your pitch, during your receiving, and 70-30. I
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, that's gold.
Okay?
That's gold.
I like that.
Yeah, well, it's a privilege.
And I'm a plumber.
Yeah, are you, honest to God, are you a plumber? Is he really?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I wish I would have known that. Yeah,
I've been retired 18 years.
okay,
I retired at 50.
right, but when I use.
But you can still fix
wait,
a leak.
Right, but when I use the analogy of the people that a plumber would want to,
I turned 69 yesterday.
congratulations,
Happy
belated
birthday.
happy birthday. Hell yeah, he could even take the health club line. But the example I was using about the types of people that a plumber would want to be introduced to isn't just the person with the leaky pipe. That's just one of the universe that's out there.
One realtor called another realtor, and
Exactly.
Mitch is my friend, and,
Yes.
and we just hanging out.
See, I love that.
Beat up.
As do we all. Sir, what'd you get from today?
I think that's a good way to, sales is structured.
Hmm?
You have a plan, it's not
Yeah.
just random going out there.
No, it's as much science as it is art. And I think many people they don't see it like that. They see it's kind of this, again, this random haphazard thing, and it's really not. There's a lot of art, and there is some just organicness and some randomness that comes out. But the real successful people, it looks happy, it looks easy, it looks fluid, and yet it is very, very structured. That's a great takeaway. Miss?
Well, I met you at Sam's Club, which
You
I
did?
went to, and Roy gave
Yes.
me John's number.
Yes.
And it just worked out. And
Yes,
yesterday I
but that's a
went-
perfect example because you were at the Sands Club yesterday, which is a networking event, which is an affinity group. How'd you like it?
I really liked it. I really liked it. I went to the DVD yesterday.
Okay.
And I liked that too.
No, that's okay.
And, and so I talked to Roy, he gave me your number, and I just really like what you guys put together here.
Hmm?
I'm just,
She's a 3 Sigma captain, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, okay. All right. Well, that's what. Again, and that's the science part of it, right? So you can look at the science of somebody's personality, and you can help them understand how they sell better. Now you'll have insight, and hopefully you'll meet with John if you guys already meet.
We plan
All
to.
right, so
We'll
here's
see.
what will happen. When you guys get together after this, you'll talk about, it's your personality. And you're going to say, these are the things that are good. These are the things we got to kind of watch for. Here's how we inoculate against it. But now you leave with a body of information where now you go out in the world better armed than you were before. And again, I think that's why the salespeople, that the real successful ones, they make it look easy, but it's not. They know things, and they've invested time in research and personalities and demographics of their clients and such. And by de facto, your selling will be so much easier if you know how you sell, as well as how potentially your people would buy. So that's a great takeaway. So no, thank you. We appreciate you being here. It was very, very kind of you. So that being said, on behalf of Mr. WAECHTER and myself, my partner in crime from the beautiful Catalyst facility here in Tucson, Arizona, in the wonderful Tucson Mall, I am Don Zavis, National Sales Trainer, International Sales Coach, and we truly wish you from the bottom of our hearts good selling. Bye-bye, everybody. And we are out.
Compliment.